First, thank you to the organising team for the opportunity to present here at Quantum Australia. Oxford Instruments is honoured to be a gold sponsor and to present for a few moments in the lead up to the panel, Quantum Literacy, Skilling Up Business and Preparing for Community Adoption, chaired by Andrea and Morello. OI is a multinational manufacturer with 8 different business units manufacturing scientific and commercial instrumentation across the world. We have manufacturing sites in the US, UK, France and Germany, all producing different instrumentation. The exciting news that I would like to share with the local community is that Oxford Instruments has recently made a large investment into the Australia and New Zealand market. Approximately 8 months ago, we have set up a direct presence in both Sydney and Melbourne by hiring a team of 4 staff, led by myself, Ken Van Schip, supported by Zai Kwon Zhu, the nanoscience cryogenic portfolio, Jocelyn Carpenter as the commercial services manager based in Melbourne, and Eugene Chu, who I am fortunate to have enough joining the team in an applications and service capability directly from Oxford, Singapore, and now moving to Australia as a new PR. We are representing the nanoscience, nanoanalysis, and VTech portfolio for both sales and service locally. We have also been supporting the broader team of OI distributors who have been representing Oxford Instruments across ANZ with both sales and support of technologies such as plasma processing, advanced optics, photon detection, X-ray sources, atomic force microscopes, and nuclear magnetic resonance systems. In terms of specific quantum technologies, Oxford Instruments supplies plasma etch and plasma deposition tools to the nano and microfabrication markets, and/or supplies cameras for photon detection, both in optical-based quantum compute and general scientific. And finally, our nanoscience division handles cryogenic and dilution refrigeration systems, providing very cold environments with both high field magnets for superconducting and silicon-based quantum computation, as well as condensed matter physics. And with that all being said, I'd like to welcome and introduce Professor Andrea Morello, Senior Professor of Quantum Engineering at UNSW and Chair of our panel, Quantum Literature, Skilling Up Business and Preparing for Community Adoption, which is interesting to both myself and I suspect the broader business community, as a staff, and more importantly, skilled staff, is always in great demand. Thank you very much for your time, and enjoy the panel.
Thank you. Thank you, Ken. Thank you, Oxford Instruments, for sponsoring the panel. I'm a low-temperature physicist by formation, so I remember reading old low-temperature physics books, the one of Richardson, where he said, well, you can either buy a fridge from Oxford or you have to build it yourself. And there was 300 pages of how to build a fridge yourself. But anyway, nowadays we don't need to do it anymore, but we still appreciate the presence and the sponsorship of Oxford Instruments. So with this, I'd like to call on the stage the rest of the panel, which is Peter Wiseman from News Group. Peter, coming on. Then we have Jingbo Wang from the University of Western Australia, professor and QISA director. And then we have, of course, Derek Muller, the founder and creator of Veritasium. Needs absolutely no introduction in this field. And we have an online panelist, Olivia, there you are, Olivia Lanes, who is the lead for quantum education and learning at IBM Quantum in the United States. Thank you, Olivia. Welcome with us. Wonderful. So how about I give each one of you like 1 minute to introduce yourselves a little bit better than I've done so far. Just tell us a bit more about who you are, what's your interest in education and skilling, and then we start the round of questions. So I think I'd like to start actually with Olivia, of course, in honor of her being with us remotely and also of a great role that she plays in the community worldwide. Olivia.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Thanks so much. Can you hear me okay?
Yep. Awesome.
Okay, great. So hi, I'm Olivia. I've been at IBM Quantum for almost 4 years now, and my role now is basically leading the content and education creation teams. So I work with some stellar, best-in-class producers, editors, physicists, computer scientists, content creators, basically. And our job is to teach people how to use quantum computers.
Fantastic. Thanks, Olivia. Jingbo.
Yeah, so I'm Jingbo Wang, and I'm a professor at the University of Western Australia. Looking back, actually, my first ever lecture on quantum computing was in 1999.
Wow, awesome. Amazing. Derek.
So yeah, I make videos on YouTube, mostly about science, including with Andrea. So yeah, made some on quantum, but lots on other things too.
Yeah. Peter?
And good afternoon, everybody. My name is Peter Wiseman. I feel so out of my depth here because I'm actually not a quantum specialist. I'm a consultant by trade and I work with lots of organizations, but the interest in quantum I actually was involved in facilitating the design of the Sydney Quantum Academy, and it's just fantastic to see how that's developed. And also more recently working with the Sydney Quantum Academy on the National Quantum Collaboration Initiative. So really hearing what's been going on across Australia around quantum.
Fantastic. Thank you, Peter. And just to close the loop, I'll just say a few words about myself. I'm Andrea Morello. I'm a professor of quantum engineering at the UNSW Sydney. I work on silicon quantum hardware for quantum computing and for quantum foundations, the really fun stuff. But I'm a full teaching academic, and I've been involved in launching basically the world's first undergraduate degree in quantum engineering in our university, spun out of the electrical engineering degree, so I have a very deep passion and interest in this topic. So I'm about to start with a couple of rounds of questions, and then we'll keep looping around, and of course I invite all the panelists to intervene and say what they want, and let's make it really lively. Keep it hot while we freeze to death here on the stage. I remember Eleanor was making the point yesterday. It's absolutely freezing. So, Olivia, I really would like to start with you. So you work at one of the largest corporations in the world who actually actively build quantum computers. So in a sense, the topic of the discussion today, which is how do we train and engage the workforce that then becomes the employees of the quantum industry. Probably there's hardly anyone better than you to discuss. You're at the receiving end of the skilled workforce that ideally comes out of the university sector. What are, in your opinion, the really key skills that a company like yours, like IBM, but also I'm sure you can speak for many others, are seeking in the workforce? And do you feel that our training system as we have it now is good enough to produce those skills, to produce the people that you need?
Yeah, so maybe I'll answer your second question first,
yeah, sure.
Which is no. I don't feel like we're doing exactly what we need to be doing. It's a little hard to describe. I feel like the gap that I see, but I will say we need more physicists who know how to think like computer scientists, and we need more computer scientists who know how to think like physicists. And that interdisciplinary layer I really see is missing. I still see, as much progress as we made, and as incredible as that is, I still sometimes see computer scientists and physicists talking past one another. And it's hard to align and, make sure that we're going after the same thing when we just still have different language. And I think that that's not necessarily a quantum computing issue specifically. I think that's a lot of the curriculum that we have now doesn't really focus on interdisciplinary skills. Another thing that we see a lot of, or that we say we need a lot more of, are people with excellent hardware skills, and not necessarily even quantum ones. But just like classical hardware engineering is something that we see lacking a lot. And again, I'm not exactly sure where the failure in the curriculum is, or if there's just not a lot of them, or if it's competing with a whole bunch of other companies that can offer, great salaries and great jobs for these same exact people. It's a complicated question.
Yeah, so if you, let's say, take an electronics engineer graduate out of, top university, are they useful straight away, or do they have a big learning curve before they, yeah. Oops. That's what we want to hear.
No, I mean, of course they're useful, but we wouldn't put them in charge of a project or in charge of a group, right? We see, I looked through our hiring statistics actually just for this panel a day or two ago, and what I found is I think a lot of people have in the mind that most people that we're hiring are PhDs, and that is true, but it's not nearly as much as I would have thought it was. It was about, over the past 3 or 4 years, I forget where I stopped counting, about half the people that we hired had PhDs, and a quarter of the people were bachelors, straight out of their bachelor's program, and a quarter of the other people were master's degrees. So, I mean, there are people that are useful straight off the bat with a bachelor's or master's degree, but it's not the majority. And certainly we would love more of them.
Right. So if you had a magic wand, would you push the university sector to somehow produce more PhDs? Or would you push them to change the way they teach undergrads?
I mean, I would push everyone to change the way they teach everything. But I guess, yeah, not more PhDs, definitely not that.
Right. Excellent. Thank you for your honest and candid answers. I really like that. I'm glad you started on this tone, and we're going to try and keep it that way. All right, second question is for you, Jingbo. So at your university, the University of Western Australia, you recently launched a new quantum computing major. So can you tell us a bit of the history of it? And also I'd be curious into whether you got much input from industry in designing this curriculum.
Yes, thank you. I think possibly everyone would agree with me while building a functional, full-scale, error-corrected, fault-tolerant quantum computer is a challenge of the century. But also, the shortage of skilled professionals in the field is another equally challenging issue. And for example, in the space of quantum software, quantum algorithm design, a couple of people has already mentioned, possibly we can count, maybe around 1,000 people knows the quantum tricks to really take advantage of this wonderful device seems coming next year or the year after or very soon. So it's a challenge, and maybe I was thinking because these complicated concepts in quantum, non-intuitive, and different from our everyday experience. And also, it's this interdisciplinary nature of the topic. So to understand the principle, you really need to understand quantum mechanics and a fairly high level of maths, computing as well as the engineering aspect of it. So I mentioned at the beginning, my first lecture giving on this precise topic was 1999. I was checking my lecture notes, and I have been teaching that subject ever since, every year. So I would like to share 3 aspects I think we learned. We have come a long, long way. That's 25 years ago.
25 years.
First of all, it's multidisciplinary. We can't deny on that. And over the years, my students are still mainly from physics. But more and more students coming from mathematics, applied or pure, and computer science, and even I have a couple of students from business and philosophy. So I try to cater the very different cohort of students who are very keen, very enthusiastic, really want to learn. So one thing we started to design, actually I'm I'm the unit coordinator of 3 or 4 quantum computing related units. Some are for pure physics students, but a couple are actually addressing a very different cohort. So the design from a multidisciplinary perspective is very important. That's the first. And second, I think somehow it's unnecessary to mystify the quantum concept. Someone keeps saying, oh, well, you can't understand. If you say you understand quantum mechanics because you really don't understand it. No, I don't think that's true. Yeah, we need to, as an educator or professionals working in the field, we need to simplify the quantum concept, demystify the concepts, and through various means. And I think if we start from very young age, later on I might even touch upon that. I think we have achieved over the many years being able to bring people with a very wide range of background along and make contributions.
Yeah, it's actually a really good point you're making, Jingbo, and I'd like to follow up on this. Don't you think that the existence of quantum computing and also of engineered quantum devices that are built for quantum computing actually simplifies the job of the quantum educator? I mean, I say it for myself, the way I learned quantum physics in the 1990s in undergrads is completely different from the way I teach it today because I have different examples I can give to the students for how to learn it, right?
Absolutely, yeah. I'm quite proud of what I did during my 5.5 years being the head of the physics department. And even though I'm a theoretician, I'm not like you, but I thought, physics is experimental science. We are not just sitting here thinking about it, and then that should be true. That's a philosopher. It's not a physicist. So during my 5 years, we actually get grants to build up a very modern quantum lab for third-year students in particular. Nice. So in our lab, we actually can test this Hall-Mandel effect, which is really bizarre. Yeah, anyone wants to know a little bit more? And the student can actually tune. I mean, even though I think I understand the theory part of it, for myself to be able to get that deep, where the intuition says it should be 50%, but it's 0%. It's just, really. Yeah. So we built up the lab, and then we acquired a wider arrangement of instrument to do quantum cryptography. Right. And I actually have 3 educational quantum computer. It's a real quantum computer. It's not Quacker. I'm sorry. But Quacker is nice. I think I'm going to buy a 10. Yeah. With the real device, and we can open it up, and students can see it's driven by lasers and microwaves, and hosted in a very strong 1 Tesla of magnetic field. I'll just add one more thing. The first thing my student did is to bring a drill next to my computer and to see if we can destroy. And it's successful. And took me another day to tune it back. So these are the very real experience. It's really like that's how they do. Yeah,
thank you,
thanks.
Jingbo.
I think it's great. The answer is absolutely yes. We have to have Quacker. They can hold, not some black box in the universe, right? You can hold, you know exactly what you are telling the device to do and get feedback. I think that real experience is very, very important.
Absolutely. Awesome. Thanks, Jingbo. Next question is for Peter, actually, just to continue with the flow. So many of us in this room know Peter because he chaperoned us into creating this magnificent thing, which is the Sydney Quantum Academy. So Peter and Nu's group were actually the consultants who helped us shaping the Sydney Quantum Academy as we know it now. So he's been heavily involved in that, and now he's continuing to help us, the wider Australian community, through the National Quantum Collaboration Initiative. So you are really plugged into the heart of this. So my question to you is, do you think that our government's priorities are in line and consistent with the needs of the industry?
That's an interesting question there. And I'm going to have to think about how we can position this, because if we look at the really high level about where government policy is going, not just in Australia, but internationally, because we are in a huge race at the moment, I think, about developing quantum globally, and Australia is absolutely the forefront of this. And we have been at the forefront for decades. We've got amazing researchers, we're doing amazing things, we've got developing amazing talent here. And I think we've got a momentum in Australia that's been accelerating over recent years. And government has absolutely been playing a role in that. And if you think about the history of how government's been supporting quantum over the years, through some of the centres of excellence, for example, through the support of the New South Wales government for the Sydney Quantum Academy, more recently through the Queensland government, and each one of the states and territories is really doing a lot of things there. The Australian government, absolutely, with the new quantum strategy, the National Quantum Strategy, I think this is absolutely setting things in the right direction, and hearing the Minister, Mr. Husick yesterday talking about his aspirations in this space. He's obviously enthused by quantum and championing it. So at that level, absolutely, we've got a lot of interest in that. Now, if you dive under the hood, and I think everybody in this room would have a different story about, oh, I wish government would help us with this or this or this. And it's been really interesting when we speak to people across the country around quantum and how this is progressing. There's things that we can help progress things along the whole way. So I think, Chris, you were referring to the national curriculum and the relative absence of quantum in that space. And many of the international students who might be here who are studying PhDs, I know some of you, it took quite a while to get your visa application actually processed and get in the country. So there's a whole range of things here where actually we need to continue to be engaging with government and talking about what's really going on the ground to make sure that, yeah, we can help progress their own policy and positions and so on. Yeah.
It does. Maybe I'll just to really put a bit of spice on the stage. Like something we were discussing before in our debrief. So one of the conversations I hear a lot, talking to colleagues and friends of mine, especially the friends, because they tell me the truth, and those who have started companies, those who work in industry. One thing they consistently tell me is that stop trying to turn academics into business people, right? And yet there is a lot of pressure on academics to become, translational researchers, to startup companies. The people who have actually done that step often tell me, you shouldn't push academics to doing that, right? Let academics train people, teach people, create curriculums, inspire people, and just come up with brilliant new ideas that, there was no business case for, but one day may change the world, right? That's what academics do. Yep. Do you think the government gets this?
Gee, you're really asking a hard question.
Yes, that's hard to ask hard questions, yes.
Yes, I think it does, but at the same time, for any government, with any industry, they are looking to see what is the economic impact we can get out of industry, and certainly the Australian government, every government around the world, will be looking for what is the economic case for supporting quantum, and rightly so. Yeah. But if I turn that question around a little bit, what we see in what the core need is, I suppose, in growing quantum industry, is we have so much still that we need to discover. So we need to be focusing on academia and the research that enables everything else we're doing. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here in this room today. Secondly, we do need to scaffold the development of industry. And we've got some fantastic companies that are represented here today. Frankly, we need a lot more companies in the future. Some of the estimates that, some of our own thinking, we think there's something like 20,000 to 100,000 jobs that we will need in a quantum industry in about 20 years. And that really links to the third piece, which is around we need to massively scale education if we're going to reach those numbers over time. So, should we be looking for you and all of your colleagues to go and set up companies? I think that would disregard both the research we need done and also the development of talent. Do we need more people scaling up in industry? Yes, we do. But at the same time, if we're going to scale up that industry, we're probably going to have to scale up how we can teach and expand that. And when I talk about teaching too, when I say 20,000 or 100,000, there, it's quite a range of numbers there. Yeah. It doesn't mean they're all going to be PhDs, not by any means.
We heard from Olivia before. She doesn't need more PhDs, right? She wants more, early skilled people.
But I am going to be...
I mean, you also need more PhDs. You want everything. I know. You want everything.
Now, I know you want to spice it up, because I am going to slightly disagree here. I think over the next 20 years, we're going to have capability at all levels.
That's right.
So we're going to need to have more people at bachelor's and master's degrees. Yeah. We're actually going to need more people who are vocationally education and training specialists too. We're going to need the technicians who are going to run various machines. But these are going to develop over different timescales. So at this point, we certainly need more bachelors and masters. I'm not getting away from that. But to scale industry, we need more people who are going to found startups. We're going to need more people who are actually going to bring new research to market. And if you look around the world right now, every one of those individuals who's doing that, they have a PhD. You have to have that level of training.
Yep.
So at this point in time, I'd actually say the priorities for developing quantum industry globally, and particularly in Australia, we need more PhD talent right now. We also need to scale up bachelors and masters, and actually for the long term, we need to be scaling up school education as well. So that's critical for the long term. Right now, though, we've got to have the PhDs. And I would say, I'm sorry, I'm going to be even more controversial.
Go for it.
There's wonderful things about the Australian quantum training and our PhD model. However, if you're going to scale up to this level, we probably need to think about different models that we can incorporate in addition to what we currently do. So if we're actually going to scale this up enough, we need to get much more diversity in all of its forms into training, in education and training, particularly at a PhD level. That's diversity in gender, it's cultural background, it's all forms of diversity. But it's also, and this goes to the point Olivia was making, we need diversity of people coming from different disciplinary backgrounds. Without that, we're going to find it really hard to connect the computer scientists with the engineers and so on. So we need to create pathways for those people to come into education. And that requires, I think, a slightly different PhD model that we can include as well as the current models that we have in Australia. The best example I've had at that, and I think we've got some people from Bristol here with us today, is actually the UK model about centres of doctoral training. And that provides a bit more of a grounding. I'm really hogging the mic here, I'm sorry. That really provides a bit more grounding for people to come in and actually do a bit of a try before you buy, before they start a PhD. Spend an additional 6 or 12 months actually learning some of the concepts, deciding, yeah, I actually want to move into quantum, and then starting your formal PhD. And I think the groundbreaking work in the UK around this is something that Australia can learn from.
Cool.
I'll get off my soapbox.
Thank you, Peter. I'm going to segue on the most popular word in the last 10 minutes, which is scaling, right? So, and we pass on to Derek. Derek needs absolutely no introduction. He's arguably one of the most successful science communicators in the world. And I owe Derek a lot when it comes to scaling. I mean, I tell everyone, and I'll tell everyone in this room. So I was very fortunate 10 years ago to spend an hour and a half with Derek in my office asking me questions and filming it and chopping it up in a couple of YouTube videos that now have about, I think, 15 million views. So there is a 10 to the 7 multipliers between the hours of my time that have gone into that and the number of people that have seen this. And I cannot go to a conference anywhere these days without someone walking up to me and say, oh, I saw your videos on Veritasium, and that's why I'm doing a PhD in quantum computing. Right? So the role of people like Derek in actually inspiring, young people to work in our field is absolutely, absolutely essential. So in your role of amazing science communicator, an inspirer, or people, young people deciding to dedicate their life into STEM, you have this role. I'm sure you don't need to hear it from me. Do you design your content with that in mind? Is that something that's in your mind when you design the content you create?
It's funny, I think the answer is no. I'm not thinking about
fair,
that.
Yeah.
I also think, sometimes I get emails from people and they're like, hey, I've decided to go into physics because of you.
Yeah.
And then I always have a real fear of I hope that goes well for you. Don't put this on me. That was your choice, buddy. No, it's so funny. I spent this time with Andrea 10 years ago, and he said to me today, "Oh, thank you for making me famous." Yeah. And I was like, "I didn't do it. You made you famous." Because Andrea is just so good on camera that's why those videos took off. So. That's always the goal online is, and it's what I do. The thing that I'm doing when I look for video ideas and I want to, explain something, popularize something, I want to find something that I find fascinating. I want to find something that people don't know about. I want to find things that'll just open your mind, change how you see the universe, change how you see the world. So those are the main things that I think about when I'm making a video. And if it does have this spillover effect, and some people think, wow, that's really cool, that's something I want to pursue for my career, then I think, all the better. But I'm just focused on ideas that catch my imagination. So
it's such an excellent answer, because basically it shows that even though you don't have the explicit goal of, growing the STEM just by looking for curiosity, for stuff that is exciting, that is engaging, that is interesting. You have that effect no matter what. In fact, probably better than if you did it another way.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's just, it's what I've got to do.
Yeah.
It's like, if I look out for my bottom line, then I have to pick like exciting topics that a lot of people will get interested in. Exactly. So, you know, and it aligns with what I find interesting. So yeah, I have a lucky position, I think.
Absolutely, no, great, thanks, Derek. All right, I'll go back to Olivia. So Olivia, IBM, like a few other companies, has decided to, quote unquote, take the matter in their own hands when it comes to education. So you've created a range of educational tools like Qiskit. Now I know that you were not from the generation that started Qiskit, but so you probably can't tell me too much about the history of it, but do you have a gauge of how much of a difference it makes having educational tool like Qiskit created by a company like IBM in the quality and the degree of readiness of the people that eventually come to work for IBM?
I mean, I think it made a huge difference. Like, candidly, I wouldn't have joined IBM if Qiskit hadn't existed. And I know that's true for a whole lot of people that I work with as well. Right. If you look at like recent studies from the Unity Fund, for instance, I think they recently quoted that over 4 out of 5 people who use a quantum computing software use Qiskit and find it the easiest to use. I mean, I think, my unbiased opinion, even though that's hard to believe, is it is the easiest one to use just because it is so pedagogically inclined, and we put a lot of work into making it an educational tool and a research tool. And I think all of the other work that we put into basically building up the community and the awareness around this open source program, like we have the summer school, we have educational challenges, we have syllabi for undergrads, I think it made a huge difference.
Amazing. Thanks. So now on to Jingbo. Again, on education, of course. What resources do you use in the teaching of the quantum computing major? So do you use standard textbooks or also online, like, Qiskit maybe? Or of course, you were telling us before about your own third-year quantum labs. So what spectrum of resources do you use for this curriculum?
Thanks for the question. I think this is a new field. I mean, it emerged about 30 years ago. I was just lucky to catch the train at the time. We have been quite creative, I think, in many ways. I started with saying we need to simplify the quantum concepts. We need to demystify the quantum concepts. But we also have the responsibility to teach the next generation the right concept. It's not simplified to something which is not even correct. Yeah, just give you 2 examples. I mean, everyone knows quantum entanglement is one of the keys for quantum computing, and quantum entanglement underpins a lot of quantum technologies and so on and so forth. But possibly you have heard people trying to explain what is quantum entanglement. They explain there is a box, you put 2 objects, one is black and one is white, you don't look at it, and they took one, and then 50% of the chance it will be black or white, but you don't know, right? And then when you open the box, suddenly it's white. You know the other object is black. It's quantum entanglement, and that's absolutely wrong, okay? That's classical correlation. So the other thing, I think people sometimes also talk about quantum computing. And I have people coming to me and say, oh, Jingbo, I can create superposition. And I have a quantum computer in my lab. And then they said, OK, if you can create a superposition, every time you double, and if you have 100 qubits, you can do 2 to the power of 100. And that's what quantum computing is all about. That's not correct either. That's the simplest step. The critical step is, what are you going to do with this 10 to the power of 100 possible solutions? And the quantum computer knows all the solutions, but for us, we have to measure and look. And if you open the box, you get 1 of the 10 to the power of 300. And each one of them basically with a 0 probability. You don't even know which one will pop up. So the critical design or the quantum tricks someone was saying is to manipulate the superposition of state in a constructive interference way. And when you measure, you get the answer you want. So that's really hard. That's really challenging. And we need to teach the next generation or whoever wants to do this the correct way. So we create lots of games. Can I show this game? Yeah, if someone can show the slides.
Special content.
So this was designed basically to teach those two concepts, or maybe more, like collapse of wave function, all in this one. Okay, yeah.
You can see it.
Oh, I can see there, yeah. So this is from one of my PhD students, and he called it Schrödinger's pets. Everyone knows Schrödinger's cat, right? They can be both alive and dead, but we have a zoo of animals, all like the Schrödinger's cat, and they can be in many positions at the same time. This is just a TikTok, just click along. Yeah, the TikTok, everyone knows if you get something on a straight line of three, you win.
Tic-tac-toe.
Tic-tac-toe.
not TikTok. Tic-tac-toe. Just to be clear.
Okay, thanks for that.
Yeah.
Please just click along. Yeah, so all those pets, all those animals, please tick along, yeah. So they can be in many positions at the same time, so you you split them into two, and we explore the possibility of splitting them in quarters. And then, okay, just stop. So you play, just like design a quantum algorithm for quantum computing. You play, you don't even know you are going to win, definitely. But you play trying to increase the probability of winning. So that's what we do in quantum computing. Okay, and then at the final step, you start to measure. All right, please just click along. And then those Schrödinger's pets will collapse their position in a real quantum entangled way. Yeah, and towards the end, if you manage to get all the wave function collapse in the right way, and you are winning. Even for me, I was playing with almost about 100 students, and sometimes I said, why can't I do it? They keep reminding me, Jingbo, you have to remember, you have quantum animals in hand. So this is the kind of things we are trying to do, really trying to build a quantum mind from a very early age.
Thank you. Thanks, Jingbo. All right, so now I would like to just do a little step outside of university and tertiary education and go into the wider world, all right? So next question is for Peter. So we know, of course, our governments will care a lot about adoption of quantum technologies by the broader society as they become increasingly mature. So what do you think we need to do as a community, as a quantum technology community, to facilitate the acceptance and the adoption of and trust in quantum technologies? Should we start now to work for this adoption and acceptance and trust? Absolutely, and you know, there are already a lot of people who are already doing that. And it's really interesting too, having a conversation earlier with somebody, and the point was raised, when we speak to our media units about this, they say, I don't understand, we just need to dumb it down some more, please dumb it down more. And to some degree it's right, but actually it misses the point. I think there's actually multiple levels that we need to be talking about quantum with different audiences. And there are ways that we can actually build that trust through it. I actually think, Jingbo, the example of that game there, and some of the other great work I know your team's been doing through University of Western Australia, Einstein Girls and, Einstein First and Quantum Girls. That's right. Actually taking quantum ideas into the education system. And if you can do this at a primary school, at a high school age, and get the kids actually involved in this, frankly, they'll convince their own parents, their own families. And that is one of the most powerful ways, I think, I think your experience as well, Derek, shows this. If you can build those ideas there, they become normalized. And that can be a really powerful way. At the same time, we do need to be engaging with industry, and not necessarily just the quantum industry, but quantum adjacent industries, to talk about the quantum, the implications of quantum in other industries, to get them on board and understand it. So some of the work around, just introductory quantum units or micro-credentials or something like that can be really, really powerful. At the same time, we need to be hosting events where we're engaging the whole community.
And that might be through, in-person forums such as this. It may be through online channels. The reach of those is incredible. And all of those things, I think, can actually come together in a really, really useful way. So yeah, sometimes we're going to have to dumb down the message, but actually, if we can get some of the core ideas in a really useful way that people can engage with, like a tic-tac-toe, like that's a really powerful way to get that across the line.
Thanks, Peter. So, yeah, we already brought up the topic of the next question. I'll pass on to Derek about the dumbing down. So, this is something that many of us who are, active in the community, we face. We have a big result, and we want to make sure the world knows about it, right? And so I sometimes actually produce our own YouTube video within my university to kind of try and explain what it is that we've done. And my media people are all like, okay, so what does it do for the normal people? Is it going to cure cancer? This thing is not about curing cancer. It's about some amazing way to create entanglement in a nuclear system. No, but what does it do? And this thing just keeps kind of torturing me, right? And I'm actually not even sure, and I'm not sure that it's actually helping anyone. So when we end up with this media package that, and many others in my field have to do this, and you look at it and you say, okay, is this actually helping? Is this, there's layers where you get to the full hype. I mean, I try carefully not to tread on that, but if we look across our community, we know who's who. There are hyped statements about what quantum computers and broader quantum technologies can do. And I often ask myself, does this help? Is this moving in the right direction? So for you, Derek, you're someone who doesn't need to, cater to these needs. You just make amazing videos that explain science truthfully and correctly and engagingly. So when you look at the media that comes out of, quantum computing, you look at it and think, is it good? Is it bad? Should it be done differently? Like, how would you, if you had the magic wand, how would you tune the tone of the outreach that quantum technology professionals do for all the good reasons to engage the public?
Yeah. I think I'm in agreement with Peter saying that, we need to communicate at many different levels.
Yeah.
I feel lucky through YouTube that we can aggregate people who are the most interested in certain topics, and I know that my audience is hungry for, they want to understand Gödel's incompleteness, or they want to understand quantum computing at sort of a very high level. So I can speak at that very high level and not really worry about losing my audience because the audience is self-selecting. And when you are aggregating across a global audience, you can get in the numbers of 5, 10, 15 million viewers because that is sort of the global demand at that level. So I feel really lucky to be able to speak at that level. But, obviously I think, all sorts of communication for all different audiences will be really helpful. And I was excited to see the game too, Jingbo. I mean, like, how can you distill some real quantum properties into a simple game that will help hit home the message? And I think that game does it. So, yeah, I would love to see, quantum across all levels, finding different ways and different ways to communicate at the appropriate level for different audiences.
Cool. Yeah. Thank you. So now we got 10 minutes left. I would like to start having some really wider discussions. So there's not a specific question for anyone, so I'll invite everyone to get involved. So until now, we've talked about, tertiary education and also outreach for skilling up the workforce. But should we go further? Should we take the initiative to already speak to people in high school or in primary school even? And what is the right way to do it? What's the most efficient way to, start addressing the pipeline at the source very, very early on? And maybe because probably it's more difficult for Olivia to kind of chip in while we're here on stage. Olivia, if you want to say something on that. So, for example, you probably, I imagine you'll be aware of initiatives in the United States for how to, address high schools or even primary school students to be better at STEM and potentially be more interested and more engaged with quantum. Is there something you're aware of? Do you have some ideas on this?
Yeah, so I'm part of the Q-12 Council, which won money from NSF and has funding for the next 5 years to work on education and workforce development at the K-12 level. I don't know about kindergarten, but certainly I am pro beginning to introduce quantum physics and quantum concepts in high school, maybe even middle school, just for the sole fact that I think everyone deserves to have their mind blown at some point, and not all people get to take that in college. And I truly think it changes your entire perspective of the way that things are and the way that nature is. And I just think people deserve to know. Does it actually help develop the quantum computing workforce? I don't know, but it makes me happy. I think it's the right thing.
Yeah. It still might. The thing is, when you're so early on, it's hard to track, directly from one thing to the next.
Yeah, I don't even know how you
someone
would,
saw the
but
YouTube videos on Veritasium 10 years ago and decided to do a PhD in quantum physics, there's direct link, testify, but otherwise it's, otherwise it's complicated. But of course, you need to throw out I wouldn't call it the bait, let's say the food, the nourishment, and then see what grows out of that, right? What do we think on the panel? Anything?
I think, high school seems like a good place to start.
Exactly.
I've got a 7-year-old, and I don't think he's ready for this. I do let them play with, I made some magnetic atom toys, and so they can snap them together and form different molecules. But it's really just about, having fun at that level. So I think in high school, it's a good time to kick in. When I was teaching physics here, the syllabus included the quantity quarks option. I don't know if that still exists. I think it's probably the syllabus has changed now. But we were doing at least the photoelectric effect and some double slit experiment, things like that. So, we were at least starting, I know, in New South Wales. I don't know if the curriculum still has a quanta component.
It might in a very, very small way, but we actually need a lot more of that. But it's interesting too when we relate it to curriculum, because I think one of the biggest challenges we have in actually getting that education into the school systems, it's actually that the teachers themselves, we actually have a dearth of teachers who actually have studied physics. And many teachers, and they're doing wonderful work, the reality is they've got a lot to teach as well. So I think the key opportunity for us there is creating the really, really simple things that can help those teachers who may not be physics experts, let alone quantum experts, be able to design and deliver lessons to their students and get the kids actually involved and interested in these sort of things.
Yeah, I would like to mention last year we received a really decent grant, nearly $1 million from the federal government. And the project is called Quantum Girls. And that project was supported very strongly by POSI Supercomputing Research Center. I'm not sure if Mark is here. And no, okay. So Mark is the CEO, and Ugo, the TEO, and Pascal is here, no? Yeah, I think that's, thanks. And also Anne and a couple of others through their outreach program. We started to work on developing the games, lessons, and reach out to schools. And we actually went all the way to the fairly remote area to talk to teachers. I think, we want to really build up a talent pipeline all the way through primary school and high school. And now we have physics, a quantum computing major 4-year program in UWA, and we also have the Masters of Quantum Technology and Quantum Computing in physics, and all the way to PhD. Yeah. So really, we need to push at every stage.
And you already touched actually on a question that's coming through Slido, and I was going to ask it anyway. How can we actually increase diversity in STEM, right? So you're talking about the quantum girls, but more broadly, we know that in our field there is a, we are not at 50-50. We're way below that. So when everybody has, hand on their heart, they want to address this, but it's a long trajectory starting from where we are. And the trajectory needs to start early on. We need to get young girls to grow and be interested in STEM first, and then eventually in quantum or whatever they feel inspired to do, of course.
It's almost embarrassing for me to say this. I possibly had, over my career, 25-ish PhD students, not a single girl.
Wow.
So yeah, so it's cry out. I mean, that project, I'm quite passionate. We want to say to the girls, consider there's a future. And I'm so happy to see so many women scientists and researchers here. And that has changed, but too slow.
Right. We see Mary Thom has a question there or a comment. Go ahead.
Yeah, I have a. Sorry, I'll lose my voice a bit. But hold the microphone close. My question is, I think if we want to make quantum computing mainstream, what I'm seeing is that we're trying to teach people how to describe quantum mechanical effects, and the tools, the mathematics that we need to describe it are quite complicated for a general audience. If we want to make it mainstream, I feel like we need to tap into something that's a little bit more fundamental to the truth of what this technology represents. So if we think back to the Industrial Revolution, humans used to define what was hard by, what humans could do or what animals could do. And when we made engines, they could perform rotary motion with torque, and that redefined the kind of work that we could get done and what was hard. Nowadays, calculations that we consider hard are the ones that either humans can do or classical computers can do. And quantum computers are actually defining a set of hard problems we don't know much about, and they're turning that into an engine of useful work. Right? We can use quantum effects to do useful work for us. So I think part of what we struggle with, and this is why I was a fan of the QUACA presentation earlier, is that people don't get to interact with quantum mechanical things when they're young. Right? We don't get to play with it in our yard. And the cloud access to real quantum hardware, and also the small emulators for folks, there's an opportunity to interact with it. But I think we need to tap into what does it mean for quantum mechanics to perform useful work? I'm curious to know if the panel, each of the members agrees or disagrees.
Yeah.
If I could jump in there. So I absolutely agree that the earlier that we can get kids hands-on experiencing something, then we're going to have more luck in actually getting them interested in the subject and being able to take it forward. So yeah, whether that's the QUACA, whether it's the tic-tac-toe, whether it's other ways that we can engage them. And it's also going to engage their families. So you're actually going to have more uptake across broader society if you can get young people involved in that.
Let's see, there's a couple of good questions here. Could videos in the style of Derek's be a good supplement for research papers? Papers often seem purposefully complicated. Videos in more layman terms could help.
Yeah, I wonder. I mean, I'm open to people making videos to help illustrate their papers. I'm also, I mean, it's hard because, science moves incrementally, and that's a difficult thing to make a YouTube video on. But I don't know. If it's for communication within the community, maybe that makes more sense. But I was going to say, in some ways, I'm happy to come out when people have a sort of big breakthrough paper and make that video. But
I mean, to this question, as I said, I mean, me and many of my other colleagues, we do make YouTube videos when we have a really big splash, typically 2-3 minutes YouTube videos. It's still not completely accessible to the absolute layman, but it is certainly a significant simplification from the text in the research paper, which is only readable by the actual hardcore specialist. Do we have a question in the room? Yeah.
Yeah, hi. I've got a question about upskilling industry, and I find that the science is often like a gateway drug into quantum, and people like Jingbo, I'm from UWA, and Jingbo brings a lot of play and a lot of awe and excitement into whatever space she goes into, and that's, that's really important. And you can use that as a tool to get industry interested. But too much science can get in the way, and I've seen it because you're talking to industry and you've got just enough and then too much and then they're gone, like the light goes out in their eyes and you've kind of lost them and you've got to kind of try and bring them back. What does a productive encounter with industry look like today? Like where have you seen people doing that really well, bringing together the right people, setting the right expectations, putting the right process in, and coming out the other end with something, taking that discussion forward or with a practical next step?
Olivia? It's a very tough question.
So is the question how to successfully interact and partner with industry? Is that the question?
Yeah, I think I'd love your insights on what a good meeting, even first meeting, might look like with a new industry partner and a researcher.
I mean, it's really hard to say. A good partnership, I would say, we've had examples in the past where we've had experimentalists run an experiment and then work with outside theorists to, run models and do some sort of modeling and whatever theorists do, theorizing, that the experimentalists at IBM didn't have either the time to do, or the experts outside the company were better suited for the project. How the project actually came to be, though, who reached out to who, I don't know. It seems like these things sort of just happen fortuitously, and there's a lot of networking, and it's who knows who type of things, which is not really a good basis for anything. I'm just being honest by what I've seen in the past.
If I could add to that point, I think there's a really interesting nexus here about actually understanding why they're having the conversation in the first place. And if you can get a meeting of minds around, there's a problem here that we think quantum effects can apply, then you've got a basis of a really powerful conversation. But I think one of the challenges in what I'd call quantum adjacent industries, so whether it's your transport systems or banking or insurance, where they may not have the quantum specialists at this point, over time we actually need some people who've done maybe a unit or have done an undergraduate degree in quantum to actually be part of those organisations. So they can actually help translate things internally. But at this point, it's kind of a chicken and egg situation. We don't have enough of that specialisation to be understanding the nuts and bolts of what do we need in a transport system. But it's getting a really good understanding of what's the problem to solve and how might we apply quantum in there.
Fabulous. All right, we've run out of time. So with this, I would like to thank all our panelists, especially Olivia, who has joined us from across the ocean, and Jingbo, Derek, Peter, for this really lively and animated and sincere conversation as we like it. Thank you all. It's been great.
Thank you.